Hello and welcome to the NetBackup 7.5 for Windows lab environment. In here you will be able to see that we will be working with 6 machines. To the far left is the VTL, the Virtual Tape Library. We will also be working with the master server, a media server, a client, a Windows client, and a Linux client. As well, we will have another machine, the Win server. For lab number 2, we will be taking a look at how NetBackup was installed and verifying the installation of NetBackup. The easiest way to do this is to look at the directory structure. So we will be clicking on My Computer. NetBackup is installed under the Veritas directory structure. We will take a look at the C drive. Then we will look at Program Files underneath Veritas. You can see that there's a NetBackup and a NetBackup DB directory structure. We also have a Vol Manager directory structure. Let's take a look at the NetBackup directory structure. Inside the NetBackup directory structure, there are several other directories available. In the bin directory, we will find many more directories in here, as well as several different utilities and scripts to be able to run. We will follow up with each one of these scripts later on in future labs. I will point out at this given time to take a look at the admin CMD. These are a few other executables that are available, as well as the goodies directory is one of the more popular directories for NetBackup. These have lots of utilities and executables to try and help your environment. Backing up a directory into the NetBackup directory underneath the Vol Manager, you'll be able to see the Media Manager side of NetBackup. Let's take a look at the versions file. That's in the NetBackup directory, and we can scroll down till we hit the version.txt file. We'll double click on that file to be able to see what version we're currently running. We'll also list the type of hardware, so you can see we're running Windows 64-bit, and the version of NetBackup is 7.5. And we'll also display the build number. This is a good indication and helpful tools for when attempting to troubleshoot your environment and calling tech support. This is one way of gathering that information. So you can see this on the master server that we have this information on here. If I close out of this window and go under the media server, I can show you the same types of information. I'm going to double click on the computer icon. Again, going into the C drive, Program Files. We still show we've got the Veritas directory structure, and there's a NetBackup and NetBackup DB. There is essentially no difference in installation of the product when you're installing the server side. So whether it's a master server or a media server, they should have the exact same directories. Some of the files might be slightly different depending on how you have answered the questions upon installation. Underneath the NetBackup directory structure, we still see that we have a bin, and we still have the admin CMD we took a look at on the master server. Again, still several executables and utilities available. Backing up a directory, going into the goodies directory. There are several different batch scripts, executables. Later on we'll get into talking about what several of these are useful for. Backing up into the NetBackup directory, this too also will have a versions.txt file, and we can double click on this just to show you that, again, we're looking at the hardware. It was a Windows 64-bit installation, and that the version for NetBackup is NetBackup 7.5. Underneath the, well, we'll close out of this. And then underneath the client installation, this is the Windows client version of this. We will show you two underneath the computer, in the computer, under the C drive, under program files. There also is a Veritas directory structure. And here it's slightly different. This is the first time that we can see some difference between the server installation and the client installation. And here you can see under the NetBackup directory structure, there is several other files and folders that are here as well. There is a bin directory. This also does contain several DLLs and executables to assist when troubleshooting. Underneath the NetBackup directory, here too has a versions.txt file. We can double click on this to show you that we are installing on a Windows 64-bit server and that the version of NetBackup is NetBackup 7.5. We'll close out of this and close out of the computer window. And let's take a look at the Linux client version of this. I'm going to start a terminal session on here just to show you the verification on how it gets installed. We're going to CD, it actually gets entered into the user/openv. We're going to do a listing. In here we can see that there's a Java directory, a NetBackup directory. So we see that NetBackup has been installed. I'm going to CD into the NetBackup directory and do a listing in here. We can see from this, instead of having a version.txt file, we will actually see there's a bp.conf file. I'm going to do a cat on the bp.conf file to show you that this is configuration files for NetBackup, and you can see from here that it has been installed. The master server is always the very first server entry in the bp.conf file. There's winmaster.example.com. There's winmediaserver.example.com as another media server, and yet another media server is winserver.example.com, and then of course the local client host name, linuxclient.example.com. So from here you can see that NetBackup has been installed on this host. Another way to tell if NetBackup has been installed, and we're going to move over to the master server, and we can open up the admin console. On the desktop, there should be an icon for NetBackup Administration Console, and we can open this console to show you. On here you get the splash screen. It had said NetBackup 7.5, and you can even see it on the title bar, NetBackup 7.5 Enterprise Server. This concludes lab number 2 on verifying the installation of NetBackup.